Hi, I'm Matt Cox, and we're here today at the Archive of New South Wales to talk about Khaled Sabsabi's show, A Promise.
Greetings, welcome. A Promise, the show, is a result of a year working with Matt on this idea of what constitutes a promise and what drives this idea, the tension, the anxiety, but it's also the commitment to the viewer from the artist and the curator. So we'd like you to join us. So welcome.
So here we are at the entrance of the exhibition. This is really the threshold as you move into the exhibition, and that's the idea of the threshold is something we talked about with this work, 70,000 veils that you made over a period of, when was it exactly that you started working on this work?
The work is titled 70,000 Veils. The concept for the work, or the inspiration for the work, what prompted the work was the idea of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that there are 70,000 veils between the individual and the divine, and none between the divine and the individual. This really inspired me, this idea, and I started to think about why the number 70,000. Why isn't it 7 layers? Why isn't it not 40,000 layers? Why isn't it 70 million layers? The idea of numbers has always fascinated me and has provided possibilities to look for meanings within a narrative or narratives.
Yeah.
So Rumi, further to that, Jalaluddin Rumi, who in the West is known as a mystic poet, but is more than that. He's a highly regarded Muslim scholar, and he took this idea, or interrogated the idea, the 70,000 veils, further, and he approached it more in terms of, was he thinking about a hierarchy in terms of, or an order? And with this work, even till now, I'm still discovering, different meanings for me. So it's evolving with each installation of the work or rendition or adaptation. I'm also learning from this. And on just a quick note, when this work was shown in Kerala, in the Kochi Biennial a few years ago, it was shown as a 5-channel projection, and someone came to me, and I'm highly grateful, and appreciative of this person, and he said to me, "Oh, do you know what the 70,000 veils means?" And I said, "No," and he said, "It's actually layers of enlightenment." So, and that just really blew my mind.
I mean, you've just mentioned Rumi and you've mentioned Sufism as well. And there's more in the show that we can talk about, but maybe since we've started on those things, I think, many people's understanding of Sufism is the word of the mystical branch of Islam, but it's more complex than that, isn't it? And also we talk the ideas around light, especially in relationship to this work,
Yes.
are really interesting with your kind of experience of Sufism.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, well, light within Islam has such, again, it has so many meanings. The idea of the divine light, the infinite light, and what that represents, the metaphysical light, as opposed to the physical light, which is bound by its limitations and its properties. So there is that to consider as well within that. I'd just like to say this thing with Sufism, it's actually, the proper word is tasawwuf. The Arabic word is tasawwuf for it. And tasawwuf means to thrive for something that is at the essence. There's been many meanings to the idea of tasawwuf, or as it's known in the West, Sufism. But it is in terms of what it means. And some people say that orders or followers of paths of tasawwuf actually predates Islam as well. And there is hadith, which may or not be verified, that says that during the Prophet's time, peace be upon him, in Medina, that he greeted and welcomed Sufis into his house and into his community.
You've also spoken to me before about things that are unseen, that you can't see. And for those people that are watching this on video, they wouldn't smell the scent that is part of this work as well, or feel some of the vibration that's coming from these screens.
Yes, and the heat also
And the
as
heat
well.
as well, yeah.
True, Matt.
Yeah.
And I think, look, the idea of, so the symbolism is really important, as we've said before.
Yeah.
So the way the work is constructed and set up is that it's the corner is really important in tasawwuf. So they either call it zawiya in Arabic or durga in Turkish or in other languages. And it's the meeting place, it's the common place. Over the 7 years, I collected the images, and then I decided to embark on making this work. So 10,000 photographs, each brought into Photoshop, and each image is stripped back. What I mean by stripped back, taken layers from each photograph. So deconstructing the whole narrative and then reconstructing it again to make this. Now, for me, the way the work is presented, and then each sequence runs for 700 seconds, so a total running time of 70,000 seconds. Since migration in 78 to Australia, I returned back in 2002 to Lebanon and the surrounding region, which is common knowledge. The thing is, when I reconnected with my family and also my relationship with Sufism, was the Sanjat was being made at the time in Tripoli, Lebanon. I visited the Zawiya, and this process of tasawwuf was forgotten for me and my community here and family. To reconnect was really important, and it's sort of reignited this learning of my lineage and also our practice as well. And in 2011, when I left Lebanon to come back to Australia on various return back and forth, I was entrusted with the Sanjat by the community. Now the Sanjat is important in the sense that what it does, in particular, each Sanjat is unique, and like I said, it's used for ceremonies. It has a lot of information in it that is important. It speaks about lineage. It speaks about sacred text and also Quranic texts as well. And
it would normally be carried through the streets, wouldn't it? I think I've seen a video.
Of course, depending on the ceremony and how it's used. And I won't go into the spiritual understanding of it, because that's something else. That's where, why we included it in this exhibition is it's a sign of a welcome gesture. of being inclusive and being open. So as you walk in the exhibition, you have 70,000 veils as the main or as the entry work. And from that particular work, the 3D glasses come on and it acts as a threshold. And as you turn and the Sanjak greets you as you take part into the exhibition. So it is an acknowledgement of the visitor, and it's about finding a common ground and respect for each other as well.
So for many people, I think they would be familiar with some of your larger immersive audio-video works like we've seen with 70,000 Veils, but we've just come into a space here where we've got some of your newer works, much smaller, the oil stick on photographic paper, and we've got two series with us here, one the Messiah and the other the Prophet. I'm really intrigued by these works, and I was when I first saw them, and we wanted to make sure that we got them in the exhibition, but you've got a lot more to say about them than I have, but do you want to tell us a little bit more about them?
Sure. I think, first of all, they're not that old. I think the Prophet is the only one that we did, I did this year. The Messiah is probably getting on to 3 years old now. As an artist, we, as a human being, we all, our practice and ourself is continuously evolving, and we're continuously developing in what we do and how we grow, as long as we're living, right? So with 70,000 Veils, I will refer back to 70,000 Veils because to me it's a significant work. Yes, it was 3 years, 70,000 Photoshop layers, but it also led to me having carpal tunnel in both hands, which I had to have operation for some years ago. So here I was, in a sense, forced to extend my form of expression, in a sense. And I went back to painting and smaller objects and so on. One, out of need, B, in the physical sense, and the other is because it's another way to translate an idea. I'm the type of person who has the idea first, and then the medium translates the idea. So I don't think automatically this will be a video work, I will make it in video. No, I will look at it from various possibilities, and from there the medium sort of realizes the concept.
But in this work, in fact, the medium is like borrowed almost from 70,000 Veils.
Yes, right? Yes. Well, the background, the starting benchmark of the work with the Messiah is 70,000 Veils. The essence of it is 70,000 Veils. So it's the raw first step of editing of some of the images from 70,000, or composites, let's say, of 70,000 Veils, which I printed and then looked at those, and then the portrait manifested from my relationship to it. And with this work, I have the Messiah and the Prophet right opposite each other. It's a deliberate act because, you know, the Prophet and the Messiah is one. They are off the same path of light, of nur, light. So for me, there's no difference in the sense. We go from the very spiritual, metaphysical, and the very wide within this exhibition, lead to this work, which in a sense translates to the next work, which is Organized Confusion, which speaks about the power of collectivism and the importance of collectivism. Let's not say power, let's say the importance of what that means. So this is and that's why we chose this work, for that reason.
One of the other things that it speaks to me about is this kind of desire for control and containment through also through surveillance. And some of the things here we see, there's the security cameras and the CCTV cameras. And so it speaks to this kind of ongoing surveillance and scrutiny that we all feel that we're under in different parts of the world at different times.
Yes.
And the way technology perhaps has also changed that. So we have this, the technology of chalk on the road, this and the kind of perhaps what we'd hope was the innocence of childhood is then ruptured by the reality of living in these kind of zones of conflict.
It's just an entry point into that discussion.
Yeah.
And it's a discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah. So the kind of things that the children might see are the kind of things
that a teacher would teach.
Yeah.
But here we're subverting it. So we're taking this wall and we're subverting it, we're abstracting it. So the lines, the numbers don't become the sequence of connection anymore. There are points of lines which almost meander their way through it. In a sense, like the exhibition itself, it meanders.
Yeah.
And this also meanders as well. The viewer is put in a position where they're overseeing the wall. They see beyond the wall. It starts at almost ground level, as low as we can go.
Yeah.
And then we continue this work. And it's the idea of the overseer, and taking a position for social change and to break the normality of violence, of acceptance of violence and exclusion.
Yeah. So there's an invitation here for the viewer to make a conscious decision around how they respond to things in their everyday life or how they respond to news reports coming from...
Well, this is not normal. The idea of division is not normal. It doesn't matter how we normalize it. It is not a normal thing. I mean, humans have evolved through time and have relied on each other to survive.
Yeah.
And communities have done that for thousands of years, for hundreds of thousands of years.
So we're in this big space now. We've got a 2-channel work here. We've got 6 channels of video over here and a mast to our right.
Yes.
It's the work called Organised Confusion.
Yes.
You shot it at the Western Wanderers football game over a period of weeks or months, I think.
Yes.
And, we're both football fans, and it's a really amazing work. But, and I think it sits right at it's kind of the end of the journey, but also the beginning on the way back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the work Organised Confusion for me when the possibility came up to make a work for Carriage Works for their 24 Frames exhibition, I think 2014 it was.
Yeah.
I had this idea of, because I was already working in terms of ceremonies and looking at the idea of the everyday and the sacred and so on. So it's in total continuum of what my interests are as an artist. It is about rhythm, essentially, and it is about how rhythm plays an important role in this idea of heightened states.
Yeah.
So this is again something that is used by Sufis over millennia. The idea of the drum, the idea of rhythm as a point to transcend the physical self. I've grown up in Western Sydney. When we migrated here, we settled in Auburn, we moved to Granville, and now I live in Bonnyrigg. So, which is in the LGA, or local government area of Fairfield, which is, I think, the most culturally diverse LGAs in Australia.
Yeah.
Probably 70% people speak other language than English.
Yeah.
So all I've known is cultural diversity.
Yeah.
Fairfield is the city of Gough Whitlam.
Yeah.
Gough Whitlam, God rest his soul, is a legend amongst culturally diverse people. And if it wasn't for Gough Whitlam, I think many of us would not be here. So much respect to him.
Yeah.
Now, and the other thing is football, soccer, the WOG game, as it's always been known, has always been known as the game that ethnics play, right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, that's a given. We understand that. And there's always been, on top of that, there's always been this sort of racial division and territorialism that happens within that.
Yeah.
So, and there's a history of it
Yeah.
that dates back to the 90s and to the 80s, right? And part of dismantling the soccer from those periods was to take control of what was festering. So back to the Western Sydney Wanderers, I attended the very first game, and what was really inspiring for me, it was at Parramatta Stadium, and what was really inspiring was to see so many culturally diverse people united in the one voice. And I thought, this is a special moment. This is an important moment in history where I was seeing Serbs next to Croatians, Assyrians next to Arabs, black next to white, and it was incredible. And it was, for me, an important state of what Australia would look like in the future, right? And this was, it's not about fear, it's about love. So 2 years on from their first game, and I was a member and attended many of the games. I was even part of the RBB, which stands for the Red Black Bloc, for several seasons. So I decided to embark on this work with Carriageworks 24 Frames. It involved filming across 6 or 7 matches over a couple of months, attending these matches, having access to the grounds, to the fans, and to be able to produce this work.
So you were on pitch filming this?
I was on pitch. I was behind the goals, and I was directly facing the fans or the RBB, and recording this, along with an assistant camera person as well, and a sound recordist. So it was quite an experience.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, we've got this collective here and this sense of, it looks chaotic, but it's also very well organized. You know, it's quite well kind of orchestrated. They have, there's a couple of leaders there that kind of help the fans move in a certain direction at certain times.
Sure.
But how does this work of the collective sit alongside this work by Agung Gunawan, the Indonesian dancer? They look like they're stopped, but each one is in motion, right?
Yes, they are. And look, I mean, it's a collaboration. And that's the way I work. It's all about the sense of collaborating and working with others as well. So in particular, with this work, Organised Confusion has 4 elements. It's an 8-channel work, 2 of the Western Sydney Wanderers, and the 6th with the black and white performer, and then there's a mask that is used in the performance. The subtext here is the popular and the everyday, how that may translate in some future to be looked at as sacred or a spiritual moment. What we may determine, this is only a question that I put in the work, that what we may determine as popular culture and the everyday today may be viewed in 500 years or 1,000 years as a sacred or a spiritual ceremony of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
One of the things you've talked about that is the self and the representation of the self and the kind of internalized and externalized self. But it really interests me with the mask. And one of the things we talked about with this show as well is inviting people in to experience the work, of course, as artworks, but also how they can participate in the works. And the mask here that we see that Agung is wearing, that he made here and carpenters made in the village, is then coloured with the colours of the Sydney Western Wanderers.
Yes, it is, because they're inseparable.
Yeah.
They're inseparable. They transcend borders.